74 political parties in Nigeria are yet to come to terms with the deregistering of their parties by Nigeria's Independent Electoral Commission, INEC.
Right, from the country's 92 political parties, 74 was deregistered, leaving only 18 political parties, which the chairman of INEC, Mahmood Yakubu, says that for now, only the 18 political parties remain fully registered in Nigeria.
Indeed. Well, joining us to... Oh, let's take this.
74 political parties are hereby deregistered. With this development, Nigeria now has 18 registered political parties. Following the conclusion of the 2019 general election, including court-ordered rerun elections arising from litigations, the Commission was able to determine the performance of political parties in the elections. In addition, they were also assessed on the basis of their performance in the area council elections in the Federal Capital Territory, which coincided with the 2019 general election.
At exactly 29 minutes past 3 in the afternoon, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission begins by saying that INEC has taken certain crucial decisions concerning the political parties. He also notes that INEC has fixed dates for the elections in Edo and Ondo states.
Accordingly, 74 political parties are hereby deregistered. With this development, Nigeria now has 18 registered political parties. The list of the parties will be shared with you at this briefing and will also be available on our website and social media platforms shortly.
After the jaw-dropping announcement, he goes on to explain the process that led to the deregistration.
Following the conclusion of the 2019 general election, including court-ordered rerun elections arising from litigations, the Commission was able to determine the performance of political parties in the elections. In addition, they were also assessed on the basis of their performance in the area council elections in the Federal Capital Territory, which coincided with the 2019 general election.
He notes that one party challenged the deregistration in court, while another was registered after the 2019 elections in compliance with the court order. He says the elections in Edo State will hold on the 19th of September 2020 and Ondo State's polls will hold on October the 10th, 2020.
Well, in light of this new development, many deregistered political parties are gearing up for legal battle against the electoral body amid criticism. Now, Rotimi Oyekanmi joins us from our Abuja studios. He is the Chief Press Secretary of the Independent National Electoral Commission Chairman. We had to have a political party acting national chairman here in our Lagos studios, but he's yet to join us. So let's begin with you, Mr. Oyekanmi. Thank you so much for coming on the show this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Let me begin by asking you sort of a double-headed question. First and foremost, tell us, why did INEC decide to take this decision at this time with barely 6 months to staggered elections coming up in Edo State and Ondo in September and October? And the other side to this is that in 2018, INEC registered 23 political parties. Now, I cross-checked that list, and about 14 of those parties you registered, the body registered in 2018, were affected by this deregistration. Would it then be fair to say that INEC was unjust to deregister these parties, considering that they have only gone through one cycle of elections?
Thank you very much for these questions. The process started actually last year. So it wasn't a decision that INEC just took this year, as contained in the announcement made by the Commission last week. We started last year by verifying the political parties individually. We went to their respective offices, conducted interviews, asked questions, looked into their books based on the provisions of the fourth alteration. Recall that the National Assembly amended the Constitution. The fourth alteration was introduced, and that gave INEC, that's section 225A, that gave INEC the power to deregister political parties. So in giving effect to that particular provision, we then went on verification exercise last December, and we visited the political parties and asked questions and gave them a questionnaire and all of that. Their responses were harvested, and the decision you saw last week was as a result of the verification exercise we carried out last year. It is true that some of the political parties were registered in 2018, but you see, a law is there, and it has to be implemented. These political parties had the chance of participating in the 2019 general elections. So the report card was actually derived from their performance or performances in the 2019 general election. So we are being fair, honestly, by that particular decision we took, which, of course, is just an implementation of what the Constitution says and not a punitive measure against any political party.
Right. Mr. Oyekanmi, the grouse with a lot of this political party is that, and this is going to be a double header, is that why don't you wait, so this is what I was talking about, till the end of the cycle of these staggered elections before you finally judge them? And some of them might do well in these staggered elections, might do well across the lines in local government elections. And the second question, why are we so, this is what a lot of people are asking, why are we so concerned about the number of political parties? The problem, like some are saying, is not the number of political parties, but about getting our political processes right. America, for instance, has over 75 political parties across the state lines. Over 75 political parties. So why are we so concerned about the number rather than getting our processes right and counting processes?
Well, it's not a question of the number of political parties. INEC is not permitted to get into the argument or analysis of the required number of political parties we can have in Nigeria. That is not within our powers, beyond our powers. What we have is the mandate of the Constitution to carry out certain functions, one of which is to register and deregister political parties. Now, we register political parties based on certain criteria, and we will continue to register political parties based on those criteria because they have not changed. Now, before the fourth alteration of the Constitution, we derived the power to deregister political parties from the Electoral Act 2010 as amended. And recall, between 2011 and 2013, this commission deregistered some political parties, over 30 of them, based on the powers derived from the Electoral Act. And they went to court to say that, well, the laws contained in the Electoral Act are inferior to the ones contained in the Constitution. And the courts agreed with them and then asked us to reinstate them, which was done. So in this particular case, the aggrieved parties also have the opportunity of testing the Constitution, testing the provisions in court by asking the courts to look at this thing. So the National Assembly that made the fourth alteration is, I think, the proper institution to direct your question to, not INEC, because we don't get into this idea of whether there are enough political parties or the number is small or the number is too much. Okay, Mr. Oyekanmi, and then, back to your first question, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, finish your point.
The first question about why not wait until the cycle of general election is complete. The cycle of 2019 general election was concluded on January 25th when we conducted the rerun elections.
No, Mr. Oyekanmi, the cycle of staggered elections this year. The cycle of staggered elections, not general elections. That's concluded. The cycle of staggered elections. Coming up on
we are not. Yes, there will always be staggered elections, you know, but we based the decision on the 2019 general elections. Because if you check the fourth alteration, it talks about presidential election, it talks about governorship election, it talks about National Assembly election, it talks about area council election, that's council elections. And The
Mr. Oyekanmi, I'm going to have to come in here. We're going on a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. You're still watching Arise News. Stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show. We're still joined in our Abuja studios by Mr. Rotimi Oyekanmi, the Chief Press Secretary to INEC, and our Lagos INEC Chairman, and in our Lagos studios is Comrade ABIODUN BAMIGBOYE, the Acting National Chairperson, Socialist Party of Nigeria. And thank you so much for joining us here in our Lagos studios. Now, before the break, we were talking about this case of the deregistration of political parties. I'd like to very quickly get your reaction to it. Now, this has happened so suddenly. We still have the Edo State and Ondo State elections coming up. What is your reaction to this?
Yes, the decision of INEC is undemocratic.
Your party was affected, wasn't it?
Yes, it's undemocratic and is an attempt to deny the Nigerian working people of political representation. And that is why we condemned it and we demand a reversal. And we are calling on every well-meaning Nigerian, especially the trade unions and civil society organizations, to condemn this action and prevail on INEC to ensure that that undemocratic decision is reversed. I carefully listened to the INEC Chairman, where he was trying to justify their action. And if you look at the arguments, two arguments were advanced. The first one was that political parties that were deregistered failed to meet the conditions upon which they were registered in the first instance. And that the second reason was that they rely on Section 225A of the Nigerian Constitution to carry out their action. And let me use this opportunity, because I also listened to Festus Okoye last night, where he was trying to say that up to this moment, that none of the political party has come out to refute the allegation levied by INEC. And let me use this opportunity to openly tell Nigerians that we of the Socialist Party of Nigeria, we are not in any way fail to meet the condition upon which the court forced INEC to register us in the first instance, because this point has to be stressed. We were never registered. Left for INEC, INEC wouldn't have even registered us for the first, because we were in court with INEC for 4 years before courts prevailed on INEC that we should be registered as a political party. Since 2018 that we were issued the certificate of registration following the court judgment, our party have always been submitting to INEC our audited financial report. As a matter of fact, December 12, 2019, INEC came to our national secretariat in Abuja for a verification exercise. And as we speak, the report of that verification exercise has not been given to us. Of course, if you subject a student to write an exam, I think courtesy and morally, such a student also deserves to know the outcome of his or her performance in that exam. As we speak, INEC has not furnished us with the report of that.
Okay.
But not only that...
Are you not aware, because we're out of time, we have to get a lot of things out there. Are you not aware of the fourth iteration where the National Assembly amended the Constitution to empower INEC to register political parties on some conditions? And those conditions, I'm just going to ask you, do you have at least one ward in a chairmanship election in your party? Do you have at least 25% of the votes cast in one state or federation in a presidential election, or 25% of the votes cast in one local government area in the state in a governorship election? Do you have all of this?
Well, let me quickly react to that. The provision that you just cited, Nigeria must know that it was actually smuggled into the Constitution of Nigeria without subjecting it to a public hearing. At least this kind of a...
Who smuggled it in?
Of course, INEC, in connivance with members of the National Assemblies, many of them who are members of the pro-capitalist political party. And aside that, that provision did not give INEC an open blanket authority to just deregister political party at will. Okay. Conditions were given.
Okay, because
and I'm happy you have cited some of those conditions.
Okay.
As we speak today, over 20 states across the federation have not conducted local government election. So where does INEC now arrive at a yardstick to say that a political party has not won a councillorship seat?
Good point. Let me interject there. Mr. Oyekanmi, I'd like you to come in there. You heard what he said. 20 states not conducted local government elections. This is the point we've been raising. There's another election cycle coming up. What's your say about this?
Thank you very much. Before that, I would quickly like to tell the gentleman that at INEC, we are not smugglers. So we don't smuggle law into the Constitution. This is purely a legislative duty. Thank you. For clarity, INEC is only empowered to conduct elections in the Federal Capital Territory. I'm talking of local government elections. And all the local government elections in other states are, per state, the state electoral commissions conduct those local government elections. But all of them have two things in common. The register of voters, it is INEC that gives that register to all states when they want to conduct their local government elections. And then the number of political parties, we are the ones that will tell them how many political parties are registered, because INEC is the only body empowered by law to register voters and to register and regulate political parties. So when this fourth alteration was introduced, and INEC is the body to implement it, we cannot base the local government election on the ones we don't conduct. All the parties have the opportunity of participating in the Federal Capital Territory Area Council elections. And it was based on this FCT Area Council election, which coincidentally was also conducted with the 2019 general election, that we base our assessment.
Behind a law such as this, one can't help but think about the purpose behind this. What will this do to our governance, to our democracy, to the electoral reform as a whole? And also, my second question to you is, looking at the way this law has been amended now, is it something, I'm talking to you, Mr. Oyekanmi in Abuja, is it something that was going to be done after every election cycle, especially since INEC has said that they do have a large number of pending parties waiting to be confirmed as parties?
Thank you very much. I think that question is what we all have to deal with as Nigerians. As a body, INEC will not get into the conversation of whether this will help democracy or it will not help democracy. Just like I said, we only give effect to the law. We are not the ones that made the law, and we are not so much interested in the effects of the law, because whichever way the pendulum swings, we will be held responsible for inaction if we are found not to, implement the law that has been made. But I think that the political parties have the opportunity to subject the effect of this law, to some conversation and take up the National Assembly robustly on this matter. The gentleman said there were no public hearings. It's now an opportunity to, because they are essentially representatives of the people. They represent all of us. I think the various constituents, and they are their colleagues. The politicians in the National Assembly are their colleagues. They are all politicians. They should come together and discuss this issue. To now say, look, you have made the fourth alteration, but we don't agree with X, Y, Z. You can do X, Y, Z. And I think that they can then go ahead, if satisfied, to make another intervention based on the merits of the arguments that they present. But as far as INEC is concerned, honestly, we understand the feelings of the political parties, what they are saying, but we have no hand. We didn't smuggle the law. We didn't work with the National Assembly at all. We just found the law on our laps, and then we are implementing what they asked us to implement, what the Constitution asked us to implement.
Just in about a minute, if you can, I want you to respond to the allegations by some of these political parties who say that the body's narrative of saying only one political party sought injunction from court is false, and that about 50 of them are actually in court to stop that the registration that happened. What's your reaction to this?
Thank you very much. When the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, made the announcement on 6 February, I think, he said two things, amongst several things he said. He said 16 political parties actually fulfill the criteria for existence as per the new alteration. But the 17th political party went to court to obtain a restraining order, which we were served with, asking us not to take action until the determination of the case. So it is not that the party fulfilled the criteria, but based on what the court order says, what the restraining order says, we are not going to take action until the conclusion of that matter. The 18th political party was registered after the 2019 general election, so it will be unfair to include them because they have not been assessed based on the criteria that we have and based on 2019 general elections that we have. Now, for the political parties that claim to have gone to court, that may be true. But what we are saying is that filing a suit in court is fundamentally different from obtaining an order or getting judgment. You cannot ask INEC not to take action based on the fact that you have filed a suit in court. We need to have an order from that court to say that this matter is before me, therefore we are given this restraining order, or we are given an injunction that the status quo should remain, you should not take action. We don't have that order.
All right. Mr. Oyekanmi, real quickly, I wanted you to react to this before we go on a quick break. Then we come to the national chairman of Socialist Party of Nigeria here in the studio. He said that INEC did not show them or did not send them the result of the verification. What are you saying about that?
Well, the result of the verification is now in public domain, and my specific question should go to the gentleman were those that the lady already asked. The fourth alteration set out certain criteria. Which one has the SDP fulfilled to justify continued existence? Do they have 25%? Did they win 25% of the vote cast during the last presidential election?
When we come back, we'll continue this conversation and find out what's next for even the pending political parties. Welcome back to the morning show. We're still joined by Comrade ABIODUN BAMIGBOYE, Acting National Chairperson, Socialist Party of Nigeria, and in Abuja by Mr. Rotimi Oyekanmi. He's the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman. Now, here in Lagos, we're talking during the break, and the question that we asked you was this. Were you able to fulfill these requirements that have been placed out by the law? I just saw I read it out earlier, about 4 or 5 provisions. Were you able to fulfill any of them?
Yes, I said it because there are 2 categories of conditions. The first one is the conditions upon which political parties were registered. And according to the INEC chairman, he said that parties were deregistered because they did not fulfill these conditions. And we fulfilled it, and I've attempted to say it, that as of December 2nd, they came to our office for a verification exercise. And all the things they asked for were provided to them. And up till now, they have not been able to furnish us with the report.
But you said the report is in public domain.
That is... Let me react to that.
I want Adeswa to read again those conditions.
That is the second phase.
So that you answer
that is the second phase.
Adeswa, can you just read it again, please?
That is the second phase.
Let her just read it again.
So let us just put it out there that the fourth alteration, which the National Assembly amended the Constitution to empower the electoral body in Nigeria, stipulates clearly grounds for deregistering parties. It says breach of any of these requirements: 1, failure to win at least 25% 25% of the votes cast in one state of the Federation in a presidential election, or 25% of votes cast in one local government area in a state in a governorship election. It also goes further to say failure to win at least one ward in a chairmanship election, one seat in the national or state assembly election, or one seat in a councillorship election. And so the question I asked you previously, Sheita has reiterated, and Mr. Oyekanmi in Abuja is also asking you, has your party met this, any of this? And if you didn't, why are you still faulting INEC for this deregistration?
Yes, we are faulting INEC because the election upon which the decision itself was predicated was election that is characterized with a lot of manipulations and malpractices.
Did you challenge the elections in court?
But the election has been challenged severally.
Now hang on a minute. If you saw malpractice in the election, why didn't you challenge? Some people challenge it.
Let me tell you.
Sorry, hang on a minute. If the PDP said this, we'll say, okay, yeah, the PDP challenged it in court. Did the Socialist Party of Nigeria challenge these elections in court?
We've written a petition, and I will tell you why. In Ifo, Constituency 2, where we presented a candidate for an election, House of Assembly election, in Ifo, as we speak, we have not seen the result of that election. And that shows how manipulative that election was. So therefore, if INEC, because Nigerians must understand this, the same constitution that INEC is activating now also mandates the same INEC that must ensure that a level playing ground is created for all political parties to ensure that free and fair election was conducted. The last election, can it be adjusted to be free and fair? Characterized with vote buying, killings, and all form of, violence. That shows that INEC itself has failed in its responsibility. So therefore, it becomes immoral for that INEC to now be activating the same section of the Constitution, which is self-flouted, to be deregistering Nigerian political party. And let me say this, if there's anybody to be sacked, it should be the INEC chairman. Okay, and also political party who were involved in all of those manipulations. But as we speak, INEC have not done anything to PDP, APC. Parties that are proven to be involved in all form of manipulations and malpractices that made it difficult for political parties like ours to actually make a breakthrough in the election itself.
All right, these are allegations, and it's a good thing that we have the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman in our Abuja studios with us this morning. Mr. Oyekanmi, over to you. You might want to respond to the allegations he has made, but let me add to that. This has become a recurring decimal because this is not the first time INEC will be deregistering political parties. And like we have said previously, you have about 100 political parties waiting to be registered again. How do we ensure that we don't keep having this conversation 12 months down the line? Do you foresee perhaps a situation where we can segment political parties to their areas of strength? For instance, national political parties, state political parties, and the local government, local political parties, so that these parties can compete in their areas of strength and we don't have this recurring decimal? Is it possible?
It's done in America.
Thank you very much. I think that the Constitution does not envisage a political party that will not be contest any kind of election. Like you rightly observed, we will keep registering associations seeking to be registered as political parties as long as they fulfill the criteria. But I think what the Constitution is trying to say by this amendment is that political parties will now have to work very hard and ensure that they are relevant. This is my own interpretation, that if you are coming in, you know that you are going to be assessed based on the following general election. The Constitution did not refer to the election as general election, but where you have the presidential, the governorship, the National Assembly, that's general election scenario. And once the cycle of that election for that particular year is completed, all political parties will be subjected to this assessment or verification again. So it's going to be a continuous verification exercise every 4 years after every general election, where we'll say, okay, now we have X number of political parties, how many of them have fulfilled this? I don't know why the alteration was made. The argument adduced is not for INEC, like I said, but here we are. We have the Constitution. It's on our lap. We are the body that is empowered by law to carry out this implementation, and we have done so. Now, the gentleman in the studio, honestly, I can understand how he feels. This is politics. We are very emotional about politics and most things in this country. But it is not true. INEC does not rig elections. We don't do that. And the 2019 general elections, as far as we are concerned, we are free and fair. Not perfect. Now, if you look at the problems that he referred to, the vote buying and selling, the violence that was unleashed, who were responsible? They are his colleagues. The politicians are the ones that did all of that to us. From the point of the conduct of the election, deployment of materials, deployment of personnel, use of smart card reader. Even if we say we want to apply smart card readers and some people say they are not using it, who are those instigating them? So I think that accusing INEC is just playing to the gallery. We should look at who are those responsible for the malpractices that we talk about. And if you take it on a scale of 1 to 100, 80% of the blame should go to the politicians.
Mr. Oyekanmi, I just quickly want to come in here. I say 80% of the blame should go to the politicians. We had some elections, some by-elections in the course of this year. And a lot of people were finger-pointing at INEC at those elections. I mean, is the EU report not a valid concern?
I have the full report of the European Union. And the European Union was one of the foreign observer groups, several, that were accredited. It is not just the EU that submitted report, there were other bodies. But the totality of the EU report commended us in some areas and expressed concerns in other areas. But there was no aspect of the EU report that came out with a blanket statement that the 2019 general elections were not free and fair. They looked at what worked well according to where they deployed. Remember, we have 119,973 polling units and in addition, over 50,000 voting points. When people make reports, how many of these polling units were they present individually across how many states? How many states did they deploy to? If you go to a volatile state, for instance, there is a temptation for you to write your report based on what you see. But there could be other places where nothing happened. So for those who went to those areas, they will write the report based on what they saw. Now, if you're expecting a particular outcome and you don't get it, there's a temptation for you to align with the report that fits into your vision of the outcome of the election. Whereas if you're on the other side, you will agree with this. That's what is going on. But as far as we are concerned, we prepare very, very hard for every election. And it will be unthinkable for INEC to now sabotage itself. When we conduct elections and we don't have interference from outside forces, we conduct election, we declare results, and everybody goes home happy.
The Senate is looking at reforming the Electoral Act going forward. Now, my question to you is, has INEC submitted made any recommendations concerning these amendments to be sent to the National Assembly?
Oh, definitely. It's unfortunate that the last National Assembly could not conclude the amendment before this National Assembly came in. We submitted a body of robust arguments based on our own experience, based on the traditional challenges and the new forms of challenges that are facing us. And even now, with the current effort being made to amend the Constitution, we are also going to get involved because we are the electoral umpire. We go to the field. We are the ones at the front lines. We face the fire. We also bear the brunt of whatever happens there in the field. It's our collation officers that are kidnapped. It's our returning officers, the presiding officers that face all these challenges on the field when they come. So we have submitted this body. But again, there will be an opportunity for public hearing, and INEC will take active participation. In the foregone National Assembly, we were at the National Assembly and we presented our robust arguments with the hope that the National Assembly will take cognizance of that. One of the things, for instance, that we argued for is the creation of the Election Malpractice Tribunal and Commission, where those who commit atrocities during election can be taken rather than the regular court, so that if you hijack ballot box or kidnap people or you disrupt the election, there should be a special commission to listen to the case and expedite action and ensure that you are punished based on the provisions of the law. on those things that you have done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rotimi Oyekanmi, for coming on the show this morning. And Comrade Abiodun, just before we wrap up very quickly, what's the way forward? Are you rebranding and looking forward to be re-registered?
Well, just like I mentioned the other time, INEC never registered us for the first instance. Courts compelled INEC to do that.
So what's the way forward now? What's your next step?
Approach the same courts,
okay,
to interpret, the law upon which INEC claimed his action was predicated. And let me also inform this quickly. Because the party's role must not just be limited to just winning election. Sinfin is a political party in Ireland. And there are potential that they are likely to form the next government now in Ireland. And for years, this party has not been recording much success in the electoral. So if it has been...
That's the much you can take. Thank you very much.